Everyone in the Ashcroft mansion had learned to speak in whispers, as if sound itself might worsen the fragile state of the child on the third floor. The house was enormous, marble staircases, crystal chandeliers, corridors long enough to echo footsteps for seconds, but it felt permanently shrunken, compressed around one small bedroom at the end of a dim hallway. That was where Lily Ashcroft lived most of her days, surrounded by silk pillows and quiet fear. Lily had been sick for so long that no one could say exactly when it started. At first, it was just fatigue. Then fainting spells at school. Then fevers that came and went without warning. Her skin lost its color, turning nearly translucent, and dark shadows settled under her eyes as if sleep never truly reached her. Doctors arrived weekly, sometimes daily. They brought machines that beeped softly, cold stethoscopes, and long explanations filled with words like idiopathic, autoimmune, and inconclusive. None of them stayed for dinner. Richard Ashcroft watched all of it with the helplessness of a man who had conquered markets and rivals but could not negotiate with fate. He was known in business magazines as ruthless, brilliant, unstoppable. In his daughter's room, he was none of those things. He sat stiffly beside her bed, afraid to touch her too hard, afraid to hope too much. Each new specialist brought a spark of optimism, quickly extinguished by another dead end. By the time Maria arrived, Lily had stopped asking when she would feel better. She accepted illness the way other children accepted weather, something that simply existed, beyond control. Maria's arrival was quiet, no dramatic entrance, no resume boasting famous families. She was recommended by an agency as observant, patient, intuitive. Richard barely looked up from his tablet when she entered the room for the first time. He was used to people leaving. Maria noticed everything immediately. The temperature was slightly too warm. The air felt thick, heavy in her lungs, as if it resisted being inhaled. The curtains were drawn tight, blocking out a bright afternoon. Only a single lamp glowed beside the bed, casting a yellowish pool of light. Lily lay curled beneath the blankets, her thin fingers clutching the edge as if anchoring herself to the world. She turned her head slowly when Maria approached. "Hello, Lily," Maria said softly, pulling a chair closer instead of standing over her. "I'm Maria." Lily studied her with tired curiosity. "Are you another nurse?" "No," Maria replied. "Just someone who stays." That earned a faint smile, brief, uncertain, but real. Maria sat with her for a long time, asking simple questions. What stories did she like? Did she remember school? What did it feel like when the pain came? Lily answered in short sentences, pausing often to catch her breath. She didn't complain. That worried Maria more than crying would have. When Lily finally drifted into a shallow sleep, Maria remained seated, listening. The child's breathing was uneven, punctuated by tiny pauses that made Maria's chest tighten. She stood and walked slowly around the room, not touching anything, just observing. The bed was beautiful in the way expensive things often were, carved wood, polished to a shine, fitted with imported linens. Too beautiful, somehow, for a sick child. The walls were lined with framed drawings Lily had made years ago, before her hands grew too weak to hold crayons for long. Bright suns, smiling animals, things that belonged to another life. And then there was the smell. It was faint but persistent, like warm metal or overheated plastic. It didn't belong in a child's room. Maria paused, inhaled again, and followed it instinctively toward the bed. She hesitated before kneeling. No one else had ever looked. Under the bed, there had never been a reason to. Servants cleaned around it carefully, never disturbing anything. Maria lowered herself slowly, heart beginning to beat faster for reasons she couldn't yet name. At first, she saw darkness. Then, as her eyes adjusted, shapes emerged. Small black boxes were attached to the underside of the bed frame, arranged deliberately, evenly spaced. Thin wires ran between them, secured with tape. A tiny green light pulsed on one of the devices, steady and alive. Maria's breath caught. She didn't need to touch them to know they were active. The faint hum she'd mistaken for the house's ventilation system seemed louder now, closer. She felt it in her teeth, a subtle vibration. Memories stirred, her sister complaining of headaches when her husband brought work home, the way he had warned her not to sit too close to certain equipment. It's not dangerous, he had said, but it's not harmless either. Especially not long-term, especially not for children. Maria slowly backed away, standing as quietly as she could. Lily stirred in her sleep, frowning, then settled again. The room suddenly felt hostile. Maria spent the rest of the afternoon pretending nothing was wrong. She read to Lily when she woke, spoon-fed her soup, brushed her hair. All the while, her eyes flicked back to the bed, to the invisible presence beneath it. That evening, after Lily fell asleep again, Maria sat in the small staff room and stared at the wall. Her hands trembled slightly. She was just a nanny. Richard Ashcroft was a powerful man. Accusing him, directly or indirectly, felt dangerous. But so did staying silent. She returned to Lily's room once more before midnight. The child was sleeping restlessly, her face damp with sweat despite the warmth. Maria gently wiped her forehead and whispered, "I see you. I won't ignore this." Under the bed, the green light continued to pulse. Maria did not sleep that night. She sat in a chair near the window, watching the slow passage of darkness into dawn, listening to the hum beneath the bed and the fragile breathing above it. With every uneven breath Lily took, Maria's resolve hardened. Whatever those devices were doing, they were not helping. And for the first time since she'd entered the Ashcroft mansion, Maria was certain of one thing: Lily was not sick by accident. Morning light crept into the Ashcroft mansion like a cautious guest, touching the marble floors and glass walls without quite warming them. Maria had not left Lily's room all night. She rose stiffly from the chair by the window when she heard footsteps in the hallway, already knowing who they belonged to. Richard Ashcroft moved through his house with a particular rhythm, fast, decisive, as if every second cost money. He entered Lily's room, glanced at his daughter sleeping more peacefully than usual, then turned to Maria with a polite but distracted nod. "Doctor's coming at 10, he said. "Make sure she doesn't eat before that." "Mr. Ashcroft," Maria said quietly, blocking his path as he turned to leave. He stopped, irritation flickering across his face. "Yes, there are devices under Lily's bed," she said. "They need to be removed." The words hung between them, stark and unsoftened. Richard's expression changed instantly, like a door slamming shut. "Who gave you permission to inspect my house?" "I wasn't inspecting," Maria replied. "I was caring for your child." Richard exhaled sharply. "Those are medical instruments. Advanced monitoring sensors. You're not qualified to assess them." Maria held his gaze. "I am qualified to notice when a child grows sicker instead of better." He looked past her at Lily, then back again. "You don't understand how much we've invested in her treatment. Specialists from 3 countries approved that setup. And how many of them sleep in this room?" Maria asked softly. Richard stiffened. Silence pressed in, broken only by the faint hum Maria now knew too well. "You will not interfere with her care," he said coldly. "If this position isn't suitable for you, remove them for 1 week," Maria interrupted. Her voice didn't rise, but it didn't waver either. 7 days. No experiments. No sensors. Just air, light, and rest. Richard laughed once, humorlessly. "You're asking me to gamble with my daughter's life." "No," Maria said. "I'm asking you to stop gambling with it." For a long moment, he said nothing. His jaw worked as if he were calculating risk, profit, loss, habits too deeply ingrained to turn off. Finally, he looked again at Lily. Her face was relaxed in a way he hadn't seen in months. 1 week, he said. "If anything happens, anything, you're gone." "That's fair," Maria replied. The technicians arrived that afternoon. They worked quickly and quietly, unscrewing panels, detaching wires, sealing the devices into padded cases. The bed was shifted away from the wall for the first time in years. When the last box was removed, the room felt strangely hollow, as if a noise had stopped that no one realized was there. Maria opened the curtains wide. Sunlight flooded the room, startling in its brightness. Lily stirred and groaned softly, lifting a hand to shield her eyes. "It's too bright," she murmured. "Just for a moment," Maria said gently. "Let the sun see you." That night, Lily slept deeply. No coughing, no fever dreams. Her breathing smoothed into a steady rhythm that made Maria's chest loosen for the first time since she arrived. On the second day, Lily asked for toast. The doctor was called in immediately. He examined Lily, frowning at the readings on his tablet. "Her vitals are improved," he said slowly. Significantly. Richard stood rigid by the window. "Improved how?" "Heart rate stabilized. Oxygen saturation up. Inflammation markers down." The doctor hesitated. "What changed?" "Nothing," Richard said too quickly. On the 3rd day, Lily sat up on her own. On the 4th, she laughed. It was a small sound at first, escaping when Maria spilled a cup of water and pretended it was a grand disaster. But it rang through the room like a bell. A housekeeper paused in the hallway, hand to her mouth. Another crossed herself silently. By the end of the week, Lily's cheeks were pink. She slept through the night and woke hungry. She drew again, filling page after page with crooked suns and stick figure people holding hands. Richard watched all of it as if witnessing a miracle he was afraid to name. On the 7th day, he asked Maria to meet him in his office. The city beyond the glass walls looked smaller than usual. I approved those devices, he said without preamble. I signed every document. I trusted the experts. Experts are not gods, Maria said. He nodded slowly. I was monitoring everything. Charts, graphs, live data streams. His voice broke. I never noticed the smell. The hum. Her face when she couldn't breathe. You were trying to save her, Maria said. Just not in the way she needed. Richard turned to her, eyes red. Why didn't anyone else see it? Because fear narrows vision, Maria replied. And money creates distance. He swallowed. I built an empire by controlling every variable. I thought if I measured enough, I could defeat illness. And children aren't variables, Maria said. That evening, Richard sat beside Lily's bed as she colored. The bed was simpler now, the air lighter. He reached out and touched her hand without fear of breaking her. Papa, Lily said, looking up. I feel good. He nodded, unable to speak. Later, when the house was quiet, Richard walked through the rooms that had once felt like a sanctuary and now felt like a warning. He ordered the remaining experimental equipment removed from the mansion entirely. In Lily's room, Maria tucked the blankets around the child and turned off the lamp. Moonlight spilled across the floor, clean and cool. Under the bed, there was nothing but dust. And in the absence of that unseen hum, the house seemed to exhale, as if it too had been sick, and was finally, slowly, beginning to heal.